All right, welcome to part 2, class 6, tonalism with Oregon Society of Artists. And we are going to be playing with color and kind of more of a tonalist color palettes. So like I talked about earlier, one of my favorite ways to go about doing that is to use just different versions of the primary palette. So if we look here, we've got yellow, blue, red, yellow, and this would be kind of the same iteration, but instead of blue, we've got black. Instead of yellow, we have yellow ochre, and then we retained our red. And we can really mess with this and play, doing browns instead of the reds, whatever yellow or any color. So limiting our color palette is a great way to experiment with tonalism. As we get started, I wanted to pull up a couple that I was working on the last couple of days. This is one that I showed you guys last week, and I was kind of sad that it was so cartoony and silly. So by simply going in and softening some edges, and I glazed over this whole thing with quinacridone red, I felt like everything became more harmonized. It's still a very dramatic, kind of punchy painting, but it feels much more cohesive, and I like it much more. There's a huge, very deep box on this one. Yeah, I like it now too. I think it's fun. The gallery that I'll be dropping off the work in Salem, she really responded. She really liked it, so I'll be taking that one down. But I have just a couple others I wanted to share. These, one of my favorite palettes for doing the tonalist work is going to be, for me, it's the earth red or oxide red, Indian yellow, and Payne's gray, or if not Payne's gray, the ultramarine blue. That's one of my favorites. And this is a painting that I did using that palette. Actually, yeah. So you can see that it definitely has kind of that, I don't know, sounds too weird to say, but kind of a Michael Orwick glowy feel to it. And that's oftentimes my color palette. Hopefully you can see kind of the greens in here. It's not a strong green by any stretch. A lot of it's kind of disappearing on the when I look at the monitor, but there's some greens, and that's just done with the Payne's gray and the Indian yellow. Makes a really, really dark, kind of a mustardy green. I don't know if that's the right word, mustardy. But anyways, and then just the tiniest bit of white to bring it out. And then one other using that, basically exactly the same palette, just with a little lighter colors. And you can get these beautiful yellow ochres and kind of earthy reds and stuff. So, and then the grays kind of come in as well. So wanted to show you those. It's a shortcut. So would you guys like to start with that color palette here? I'll squeeze out some earth red or oxide red. So I'm going to do my yellows here, my reds here, and my blues / blacks here. So I'll just be squeezing them out one at a time and trying to remember which one I'm actually using. And then I'm going to squeeze out some white as well. Let me get a different tube of white. This white is really almost dried up in the tube. So the color I squeezed out first was oxide red or transparent earth red if you're using Gamblin colors. That is just a titanium white. For my yellow, I will start with the Indian yellow. Wow, what a feeling. Brand new tube, first squeeze. And let's go to, should I use would you guys like to see it with a Payne's gray or with a ultramarine blue?
Payne's gray.
All right, Payne's gray. That's what I got in my hand, so good choice. And I'm just going to, this is just a piece of paper. It's oil painting paper. Taped to a board underneath it. So I can just do some kind of just little dashes of color just to kind of experiment and show you what we got here. So if I mix white and my Indian yellow. I of course get a very kind of a nice warm yellow. If I mix my Indian yellow, oops, I don't need to do that, Indian yellow and a little bit of my Payne's gray, like I said, I'll get a really dark, kind of a hideous green. Let's warm that up by adding a little more Indian yellow. There it started. You can kind of see the green there a little bit. Let's add a little white just so we can see that. So what I like to do when I squeeze out whatever three colors I did is I like to just do a little experimentation and see what happens when I mix them together. What beautiful or hideous colors can I get? Let's go ahead and scoot that over so you guys can see it a little better. So I'm just kind of seeing what colors do I actually have to play with. Is it gonna, can this be a stand-in? So there's the Payne's gray, and let's just mix a little white with that, and we'll see that it'll turn quite bluish. So that's one thing I like about the Payne's gray is it makes these beautiful kind of grayed blue colors. Let's see what happens. Let's try to, so in theory, if that's my blue and this is my red, mixing them together should make a purple. But of course it's a brown and a, almost black. So it's not, but let's see what kind of a purpley color it makes. First, it makes just a very dark, dark, dark brown. So I've got, this one has more Payne's gray in it. This one has more of the oxide red. So this is going to be my purple. So it does not make a purple. And that's because my earth red is quite warm, leaning towards yellow, or leaning towards the oranges a little bit. Let's see if we have more Payne's gray. So that's about as purple as I'm going to get. So purple is not a color I have in this painting, which is fine. Again, we want to make kind of a limited palette. I'm not trying to replicate the most colors I can do, but you see how already there's kind of a harmony in these colors to a degree, but there's also quite a bit of range. So if I even, let's just mix all three colors together. Should make a horrible, weird mess. Let's see. They're all so dark, you almost need the white mixed in with them to be able to see the color. But it makes actually a beautiful, very, very tertiary color. So that would almost be a nice mother color if I just mixed all three colors together, and then I could branch off from there and experiment. So I'm going to scoot this back over, and I'm just going to make some quick notes on that. I'm going to do lighter colors to darker colors. Give me 1/2 second. I'm going to go ahead and throw some gloves on because I feel like I'm going to make a mess. So I already love the warmth and kind of the glow that's coming across here. And all I'm going to do is just kind of bend these colors just so I can kind of see how do they play together. You guys don't have to do this if you don't want to, but it's kind of fun to just kind of experiment. Maybe these would be good notes. If I do decide I like this palette, I could write, what colors I'm using. Isn't that beautiful? Such harmony already in those colors. Like that could be like if I was an interior designer, that would make a nice living room color set. They're all grayed down. Isn't that interesting? How that harmony, if you squint your eyes, how they just kind of slowly blend from one to the other. There's hardly any big jumps. So that's a nice palette. Just for another, if I was experimenting more, I could take and lighten each version of it by adding white to it and darken each version by adding a little bit of black. So let's just kind of do that. I'm just going to put a little dash of Payne's gray at the bottom of each one. All right, clean my brush here. And let's just pull that down towards the darks, just getting. This is easier on my palette because in the paper it's soaking it up. But on my palette, sometimes I'll just have these long streamers of colors as I'm bending them and turning them and just kind of testing what happens if I mix this color or what happens if I lighten it or darken it. Oftentimes when we are darkening a painting or a pick color, it's called a shade. When we're lightening it, it's called a tint. So I'm just experimenting to see what is my range. What happens with these colors is they either get lighter or darker. Don't want to bore you too much, so I won't go through and do this with all the different colors that we're going to experiment with. But go through a lot of paper towels here. This is just a great way. You could make a color wheel of your 3 chosen colors. Which can be really beautiful. And I'm not doing a great job of cleaning my brush in between here, so it's not going to be as pure as I want it to be, but still really gives me a good idea. I'm just going to do the opposite now. Oops. Should just grab the new brush instead of trying to clean the black out of this brush in a hurry. Let's see if I can get rid of that little spot there. If you do this, you don't have to rush through it like I'm doing here. So now I'm just adding white on top. And let's do the reverse. Trying to preserve a band of the original color kind of in the middle. What I do is I just kind of dip down into it and then pull that color back up towards the white. I'm trying to be pretty equal with the amount of white I'm using, but since I'm being fairly quick and kind of careless, it's definitely not equal. That spot dips down pretty hard. Does this make sense what I'm doing? Just to kind of test to see, you know, what kind of landscape would this work on? What kind of picture might this work on? Which room in the house would these colors look best in? There we go. I've created kind of about a colors study as well as a shade or going darker and going lighter. So you can see there's a lot of range. And look at this. Wouldn't you swear that that's a blue and not just a Payne's gray? Really interesting. This can make a really beautiful, you know, kind of a sunsetty scene. There's a lot of color. You know, and I could experiment to see if I could make kind of a brighter green or a brighter yellow. You can see that on this side was my bright yellow, but once I introduced the black, this area wants to sort of turn green on me. But anyways, love this color palette. Let's go ahead and experiment with a different one.
Is this considered a Zorn palette?
I mean, it's not a true Zorn palette, but it's in the same idea as the Zorn palette. The Zorn palette is what led me to experimenting and coming up with my own palette. You know, this, so this would be an Orwick palette. I don't know. I don't know anybody else that uses Payne's gray, transparent earth red, and Indian yellow and white. But, you know, a lot of times this is more of my underpainting colors too. You know, I would do a lot of the, but I sure, now that I realize the range and the harmony that's in there, I think like these colors would make such a nice colors for like a blanket or something like that, or a rug. I could really see, and maybe those are my favorite colors because a lot of our colors in our house are kind of this. We kind of like the more muted. We like auburns. We like grays. You know, so I think you kind of lean towards. I mean, if you just looked around your house, and how do you decorate, what colors did you choose to paint your walls and everything else, would probably tell you a lot about what palette you kind of like. All right, this is the one that literally I've wanted to experiment with. So this time I'm using Venetian red, which is a very opaque, kind of a brick red. Move that over again so you guys can see it. It's kind of leans a little bit. This one's a runny color. Normally Venetian is quite dry of a color, but this is the 1980s version, the cheap paint version of Gamblin's Venetian red. I think, I'm wondering, I think I'm going to go with yellow ochre this time. But every time I introduce like a 3-color palette, I'm like, but what if I used Indian yellow instead? Or, you know, and my instinct is, oh, let's do Payne's gray again. But I think, let's get crazy. You guys ready? Let's see what happens. This might be a disaster. I just have to look down and there's a tube of phthalo green. So what if I use phthalo green as my blue? Let's first experiment. And what I already know, because this is such an opaque color, is I am not going to be able to make a dark. So in this instance, I might need to pull up like chromatic black, which I'm going to go ahead and squeeze out just in case, and to show you guys a little bit about using a chromatic black just to add a shader to darken a color. So I'm going to do, first experiment I want to do is to see how dark of a color, if I just do my Venetian red and my phthalo green. Both of them are a strong pigment color. So that's pretty dark. Let's add more of the phthalo green, see if it gets even darker because it's still reading as pretty red. So it does get pretty dark. Let's see what happens when we mix white with that color, where we've ended up kind of on the very green. Isn't that interesting? But I'll show you really quickly. If I just put phthalo green and white, it is very bright. I'm gonna put it beside it here. So I do that just to show you what having that that red mixed in there does, how it neutralizes that green. So those are interesting colors. I'm mentally having a very difficult time seeing how I would use that in a painting, how I would make that look good. Phthalo green and Venetian red. Even these colors they're very strange to me. So I'm going to try a mix of all 3 colors. And I might quickly discard my phthalo green. So it's just kind of a good experiment. It's kind of a nice earthy, greeny, yellowy ochre color. I like that. That's nice. I could see myself using that. And here's a lot of times how it will look on my palette as I'm bending the colors. I'll just start to mixing with my palette knife definitely keeps the colors cleaner. So it's kind of nice transitions, but it's strange. So just by doing a little experimenting, I can very quickly go, you know what, that's nice, but not, I don't see myself making a painting using these colors or these colors, at least not today, but by experimenting, at least I kind of have an idea. So let's get rid of our phthalo green for right now. We'll bring it back in the next color mix. I think we'll do what Dennis Sheehan suggests, or what he does in his underpaintings with that. So we'll, sorry, you'll be back, don't worry. So I've got my Venetian red and my yellow ochre still. Let's try the ultramarine blue. Let's just see what happens. I think just instinctually, I feel like it's going to be a little nicer, but I could be wrong because I've never done it before. All right, so I'm going to do the same experiment and just see what my darkest dark is with ultramarine blue. And Venetian red. Add a little white to that to see what way is it leaning. Is it leaning towards the blues or the purples? Definitely leaning towards blue as I have that mix right now. So let's add more of the Venetian red, which is going to lighten it. Again, it's very opaque. I'm going to make a lighter value and definitely much, much warmer. Add a little white to that to see where we've ended up. Oh, I like those two colors together, really play nice. Put a little yellow ochre on each side. So I'm gonna mix. This is kind of my orange a little bit. Are you guys seeing that okay? Do I need to zoom it in at all or anything? Let's
I
try
think it's
this.
good.
Very earthy colors. Now I'm going to go towards probably what would be my kind of greenish over here. That's my guess. So yeah, interesting colors that you get, but you see how they do want to harmonize there and link them together. So yeah, that's kind of how I will often on my palette kind of test out my colors, is just seeing, you know, what happens if I do that. I could substitute out my ultramarine blue and try with the, either a Payne's gray or an ivory black. Another thing I contemplated doing in this mix was, what if I use Naples yellow, which is a color I never use because I always think of Naples yellow is basically yellow with white in it. but it might be nice in this interesting palette. So let's just do a really quick movement here. Oh, that is gorgeous. That transition between the Naples yellow and the Venetian red. And again, these are all just a matter of taste. Ultramarine blue towards my Venetian red. So that's a pretty interesting color spectrum there. I think you could do some interesting things with that. Let's take it back on the other side. So this is my ultramarine and my Naples yellow. And it does not make green what I perceive to be green at all, which is interesting. I thought it would.
I think your brush on the yellow though had a lot of other colors mixed in.
What's that?
Just thinking that if you, the yellow that you put down on the right wasn't as bright as the one on the left.
Yeah, that's true. Let's clean my brush or just pick up a new brush. Let's.
Michael,
Yes.
also the brand of Naples yellow makes a difference.
Oh, I have to imagine that's true. Yeah.
Old Holland makes a much more intense Naples yellow that will make lovely greens.
Oh, really? Let's just, yeah, I want to make sure I don't have any of my red, Venetian red mixed in. So I'm just going to clean that brush really well. And I'm just going to make a whole new pile down here real quick. Move it up so we can see it. And yeah, Venetian, or the goes away pretty fast. Yeah, like you're saying, this is a very weak version of Naples yellow, it seems like to me. Not a color I use for that reason. Ever so slightly more green, but really just wants to make kind of a gray blue. Almost the same color as my palette. And the blue is so much stronger than that yellow. Quickly dominates. So yeah, I personally, I mean, it's green-ish, but yeah, it just more feels like a subdued blue. So that's an interesting palette. That would make landscape painting pretty tough when you don't really have a green, but can definitely be done. Could experiment. I'm going to clean that brush again. I want to just see what happens with Naples yellow and Payne's gray. Grab a new brush. I'm guessing it's just going to make a very much a gray. Yeah, not a green in sight. It's kind of nice colors. So it might be an interesting palette. You can almost use my Naples yellow as a white. That might be kind of fun. That's just because we're experimenting. I want to test what happens with Naples yellow and Indian yellow mixed together real quick. Because what if I had Indian yellow and Naples yellow on my palette? And I'm not going to restrict you to just 3 colors. If you want to have a 4th or 5th color, that's fine.
But the blue is sort of to replace black, correct?
Yeah.
So a manganese blue hue wouldn't work in this situation.
No, it would. Yeah, you could totally do that. Yeah, no, you could try anything for sure. And that's, yeah, I mean, I like these gradations. I like all of them. I just, I'm just trying to decide what kind of painting would that look good doing. What kind of, and that's what the fun is in these, making these experiments. All right. You guys have a suggestion for a third one here?
That bottom one could be an ocean colors.
Yeah, all like these, I mean, all of these actually, yeah, would really do probably a beautiful ocean scene. Yeah, I mean, that's a beautiful transition. A lot of interesting things going on in all of them. I mean, this sure reads nice too. Let's take the Indian yellow since I have it out. And mix that with our Venetian. Bet you it's gonna get hot. Yeah, the Venetian is so strong, but that's actually a really nice transition there. Let's mix Venetian, Indian yellow, and white. So yeah, that makes a very beautiful, very orange. I mean, if you know me, you know my paintings, I love my peaches and my orangey and gold colors, almost to a fault. So again, we're all going to have our own color choices and tastes. Just taking it back to Payne's Gray again. So part of me, if I was just on my own and just about ready to start a painting, I think I would like to do Venetian red, Payne's gray, Indian yellow, and white. I think would be a nice, interesting, probably very warm painting.
On the one on the right that you painted, that was earth red.
This one, yeah, that was the transparent oxide red here, earth red, yeah. Very earthy. Okay, one more quick experiment before I switch up colors is the yellow ochre instead of the really pale Naples yellow. So I got my Venetian red. And Payne's gray. So what about that combination? That I bet would look, I think that one will be really nice.
Is that gold ochre?
No, it's just yellow ochre. Yeah, the gold ochre is really quite weak. It's a very transparent color compared to yellow ochre is generally an opaque color. Clean my brush so I can go from the other side. I'm going to use a whole roll of paper towels here. Let's grab into the yellow ochre. That one's pretty interesting. Gives you a pretty big spectrum. I'm going to take my yellow ochre to the other side. Inching it towards that Payne's gray. Definitely feels more greenish than with the Naples yellow. So if I was going to do my Venetian red, I think I could either do with the ultramarine blue, which gets it to this dark up here. And I think I like the yellow ochre more than the Naples yellow for sure. With the Indian yellow, it was sure a lot of fun. So again, that's just kind of how I experiment, how I play. I don't hate any of them. It's just a matter of, what scene do I want to make? Which, do I want dark darks? Am I happy having, painting in a mid value or light or a high, high key, mid key, low key? So all those things come into play. Like, can I make a dark dark with this 3 colors? Or do I need to, if I can't make a dark dark, does just adding some black to it or chromatic black or whatever else. Let's do that over here. Mix our chromatic black into our blues. And I'm going to go ahead and take that all the way across just to play. I think that could be some nice ocean stuff, but I don't love it. I'm afraid Naples yellow is going to go back in the drawer for another couple years until I either forget that I don't love it or try to use it in a different way. I did like it mixed with the Indian yellow, so I could use it as, 2 yellows or whatever else. I could almost use it as my cool or as my white. But it doesn't make greens, doesn't really make oranges. It just kind of lightens all the colors is all, and slightly a warm light version of it. All right, everybody okay if I scrape these off? I'm going to zoom you back out. And let's try one more.
Michael, what brand of Naples yellow is that?
Gambling. I think all my colors that I've got out are gambling. I did pull out a King's Blue Deep by Michael Harding, but it's there's so much white mixed in with this color. I would have to use probably chromatic black with it. This makes beautiful grays and stuff, but I can't get super dark with that. I should have put those onto that paper so I could have that paper as future reference, but let's see what gray we ended up with here. Does anybody remember what Dennis Sheehan's underpainting colors were? Was it burnt umber and phthalo green? Is that right? Or what? No, it's oxide red and phthalo green.
Yep.
So I'm going to try that, and then we got to figure out which yellow. I'm not going to do Naples yellow, but we could use like just a, more of a normal, like a Hansa yellow light. Or we could do the Indian yellow. We could do yellow ochre. All right. Welcome back to the party, kid. Got my phthalo green up there and my iron oxide or earth red. I already know that that'll make really nice darks. And that's kind of, you know, because I do like a fairly full value range. But yeah, just a gorgeous dark. Let's mix a little white so we can see what kind of a dark we just made. That one's quite greenish, meaning the phthalo is stronger in that mix. So let's go ahead and mix it stronger red on this side. So I like those colors a lot. You can see quite a bit there. I think that phthalo green is considered a fairly transparent color. It actually doesn't say on my tube, which is interesting. Just feels kind of on the, it's probably a semi-transparent, and then my earth red is a very transparent. So it'd be interesting to use a transparent palette with that. So let's mix Indian yellow and just see what that does. Wow, that's pretty intense. Let's show you with a little white so you can see it. It's very much like a sap green.
I'm reading your notes about Dennis Sheehan, and for yellows, it looks like he used what you put, cadmium yellow hue and Hansa yellow deep.
Cadmium yellow hue and Hansa yellow deep. All right. So yeah, it might be nice to have that range. The Indian yellow I like because it can go really warm, or I can cool it down just by simply adding the white. And it looks like just a little bit of the phthalo green. Whoa, it's so strong. Phthalo green is just an amazingly strong color. I was just trying to lighten my yellow or cool down the yellow. It doesn't take much. Of that ultra or the phthalo green.
But that was for his finishing colors.
Yeah, totally. I think this could work. Thinking that I like this color, this trifecta, for at least maybe today. We'll just see. That's the dark, leaning towards red. Be interesting to have that turquoise color. That's if you want a super vibrant sky, or you want really vibrant color in your waves or other things, phthalo green is magic. I mean, look at that. That's just phthalo green and white, and it becomes like the most beautiful sky, or Mediterranean watercolors. It's beautiful, beautiful color. It can be a little bit difficult to contain, but I imagine if we had orange on this palette, let's try, I'll squeeze out a little bit of orange if I can find it. Again, I never use orange. Don't I have, yep, all right. Cadmium orange. So cadmium orange and phthalo green work really nicely to neutralize each other. So I've heard. I don't think I've ever done it, but I was talking to a friend of mine and she's quite the colorist, and she uses the phthalo colors. And I was like, how can you do it? How do you get away with it? Because her paintings don't look garish and toxic like mine do when I use the phthalo colors. And she told me that she just uses the green, she has orange on her palette, and just a touch of orange into the phthalos really cool, calms them down. They almost don't want to mix. They're like oil and water right now. That's funny. I'm really having to do a lot of mixing. Makes a really nice earthy green. Wow. It's so crazy. You know, I've been painting literally professionally for almost 20 years, and I'm still just amazed at what colors do. I have so much fun. Just like the utter surprise and excitement of it still gets me. That's a kind of a nice transition there. I don't know if you could use orange as a yellow. Let's mix it with white and see what it does. Nope. Just does what you would think it does, just becomes a pale orange.
And you did add Indian yellow and phthalo green. Is that what's on the left there?
Here, yeah. Yeah, that's this bunch. Pretty interesting. I'm scared. But I kind of want to try this palette and just do kind of a quick subtractive painting and see a little bit what happens here. Are you guys willing to, we only got about 20 minutes left, but I can pull this piece of paper off here. And well, what colors would you guys like to see? Or do you want them to see me even just try all of them, all the colors I have out there, and just make kind of a, because we already got a bunch of beautiful colors.
What's our homework assignment?
To make up your own color scheme, to make your own Zorn palette, or to use the Zorn palette. So basically it's to make a tonalist painting using not typical, like the colors you wouldn't normally use. You could use some that are normal, but I'd like, okay, if you're gonna, you know, maybe you substitute your black for Payne's gray, or maybe you substitute your red for burnt umber, something like that. I want you to see, and then you can either mix up a mother color with it, or yeah, so it is to experiment with a new palette. And if you want to use just 3 colors, that's fine. If you'd like to use multiple yellows or multiple reds, that's fine. But I just want you to experiment and play, thinking about the Zorn palette. And if you're, again, at a loss, or you haven't done a Zorn palette before, that's a great one to start with. All right, let me clean this off. Get this paper off here. Actually, I'll just grab a new one. This canvas, the gesso has a little bit of a peach color to it, just so you know that it's not a pure white gesso on this painting here to start with. I'm going to squeeze out Just gotta make some room to mix some paints. And you don't have to do a finished painting if you wanted to just do some, little color graphs, or if you want to do some more abstracted, kind of quick and rendery, whatever you want. I'm just going to put out Indian yellow, basically the colors I have right on the top. That's a lot of Indian yellow. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to mix my Venetian red a little bit and my earth red. So it's not a fully opaque or fully transparent. Need a little more. So I'm making my own red color. That might have been a mistake. We'll see. And I'm going to use phthalo green just because I'm totally scared of it. And I'm going to invite my chromatic black to the party if I need it. All right. So, basically, the top row gets to play. And if I wasn't in class right now with you guys and literally looking at 15 minutes left on the clock, I'd probably do some experimenting with this, possibly a little color wheel action or like I was just doing. But we're going to attack. We're going to worry more about the values because as we've learned in this class, values do most of the work. So let's mix some darks. Bring a little Indian yellow in there. And I'm going to go ahead and give it a little bit of the black just to get it really nice and dark. All right, lovely. Put a little bit of paint thinner on my brush. You guys can see the canvas okay? So again, my colors right now are titanium white, Indian yellow, the red that I mixed using Venetian red and transparent red oxide, phthalo green, which is the scariest color I basically own besides phthalo blue, which is even scarier, and chromatic black. Got a little paint thinner on my brush and grab a little yellow. Kind of give myself a slick surface. I'm going to do, Susan, I'm going to steal your thunder and I'm going to paint a little nice loosey, nice loose kind of abstract painting. I'm just going to kind of get some shapes.
Okay. I also feel like you do with phthalo blue and green. I've had the tube for 15 years and never used it. It's so frightening.
It's terrifying, yeah.
It's
and every
artificial
time I do
looking.
it, even when I feel like I've handled it okay, I'll get the painting into the gallery and like beg them to give it to me back.
It's so artificial looking, that green.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great word for it. All right, I burned through all that red in a heartbeat. It did not stand up to the phthalo green at all. That's the earthy red on the side, and the Venetian red on the right. I'm just kind of roughing in kind of the shapes of a little hinted at landscape here. I'll be using subtractive method as well. Just using a big Benjamin Moore house painting brush. I like the Benjamin Moore brushes. I think it's a Benjamin Moore. Can't read it any longer. Just because a lot of times they have longer handles versus just the little shop brushes, which I still love. But sometimes it's fun to get a little more motion in it. All right, let's just figure out some values. I want this kind of be the base of a tree here, kind of the foliage in this tree, kind of the base of another tree over here, kind of coming across. Got some grasses, kind of a basic painting that, you know. This brush is filthy, so I'm going to keep it filthy, but I'm just going to go ahead and grab a slightly cleaner brush and get some warms in there. Kind of looks like a pseudo landscape, very shiny ones of the wetness, but what do you think? Big mess, right? Let's see if we can fix it up. We can get something out of it.
Well, it looks good. You've got both light and dark going on.
We got some light, we got some dark. We got some paper towels, most importantly.
I'm gonna put out the fire.
Let's put out the fire. Sorry about my arm, but probably shouldn't have added that little bit of paint thinner at the beginning with the Indian yellow, because it's making a pretty slick surface. Maybe it would be a little bit nicer to have a little more grab, but all right. Live and learn again and again and again. Just trying to make something kind of interesting in there and a little bit broken up. Sky holes are a breeze when it's so slick, just pulls right up. Don't even have to hardly press down at all. So I'm just kind of scrunching up my paper towel, making little odd marks. Yeah, something slowly starting to materialize there a little bit. And again, this can completely be my underpainting. It'll dry pretty fast. The transparent earth red I'm using is actually a fast matte, which is getting mixed into all the colors. So I bet you I could paint right back into this as soon as tomorrow. But I'll have 2 days because tomorrow I go to the gallery in Salem and drop off work. And then I'm going to go take the long way home and go visit the vineyards and stuff and rural side back there.
Are you gonna try to time the time of day for that trip along the way back?
Unfortunately, no. I show up at 11, so maybe I could leave earlier, and maybe that's what I'll do is see if I can get all packed up tonight, and see if I can leave early and just time it to get there at 11 and take my time getting down. And there's beautiful scenes or rural scenery on both sides of I-5 going down. So maybe I could go one way down and then maybe I'll visit, what is the monastery called? Near Springfield, no, Silverton, I'm sorry.
Angel, is it Mount Angel?
Mount Angel, thank you very much. See if they even let me in. But it's beautiful out in that area with the rolling fields and everything else. I'm just taking a bit of paint thinner. I'm just going to wipe back my sky a little bit more. I mean, those colors aren't horrible that it kind of are showing up there, especially for the underpainting. This is where you guys speak up and say, in fact, Michael, you are quite wrong. They are horrible and we hate them, or the opposite.
I'm curious what you're gonna do with the sky later.
Me too. I don't know. I almost, I mean, because of the fall colors, you know, and the fact that I have the Venetian red, I almost could do kind of a dark overlay of, you know, kind of fall colors in these trees. And then maybe keeping a gray greenish sky might be just gorgeous, but really light. So it'd almost be in an inverse of what it is now, where these would get redder and then the sky would get gray greenish. I don't know.
Is that a little path going through?
It's gonna be, hopefully. Just using the paper towel, hopefully make kind of a feeling of grass, just but you kind of just lightly kind of whip it around, and you know, you don't want to go do the same motion over and over because some of the grasses are more laying down, some are standing up. And what's cool is eventually you pick up some of those colors and I can actually use those to paint with if I want to get some more texture. Might be nicer if they're a little redder, not so much green up there.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. Oh man, you're saying that because you want me to be done because time's up.
Oh, it really
Yeah, brilliant.
is.
Let's go.
It's
Just
gorgeous.
to make a
Michael.
paper towel painting.
Yeah, I did. Ta-da. But yeah, I'm not in hate with these colors by any means. You know, and I can grab my brushes now and start to finesse some of these shapes, you know, just using what's on there. And so it doesn't all just look like I wiped on and wiped off. I don't know what this little lump is. All right, so the picture that I've kind of been looking at is in our reference files. This one also has the Queen Anne's lace. It was taken on the same day as the other picture that I painted with the Queen Anne's lace. But you're more than welcome to use that if you don't find a reference. It's, you know, can't really mess it up too bad. It's just pretty basic, couple dark shapes, a mid shape, mid value, and a light. And a very blurry screen. Focus. Huh. Focus. What did I do? There we go.
There it goes.
All right, I'm gonna do one more wipe away and then I'm gonna free you guys to go get your lunch or whatever it is, but thank you very much. So the homework is make your own palette or experiment with slightly off palette and create interesting and new color harmonies. Kind of leaning towards more subtle and earthy colors possibly. But if you want to get crazy, you know, maybe you want to use quinacridone red and phthalo green, and which actually would be pretty good. You can make really nice darks. But please make a note of what colors you end up using. And again, it doesn't have to be just 3. It can be as many or as few as you want. If you want to do it with just 2 colors and white and really make a very harmonized painting, that's fine. Just let us know so we can all learn from each other. We can say, man, that really works. I really like what you did there. Or thank goodness you did it and not me. Another idea is to figure out, you know, some of your favorite tonalist painters, maybe throughout history or whatever, and see if you can find out what their palette was. See if you can, if it's listed anywhere, maybe do a little research. Don't hate it.
Looks great.
Bouncy, bouncy, bouncy. Yeah. Don't hate it. So that was interesting experiment. It's a lot of texture, you know, and it definitely needs some finessing here after class. But, you know, off to the races for a 15-minute painting, right?
It's
Very
beautiful.
cool. Any questions, comments, anything like that before I let you guys go this week?
When you have paintings and you have to put the mounting stuff on the back, and you never do that ahead of time, right?
I do. If I'm being smart, I do. but then I'll inevitably paint it upside down. Or sideways. I actually have that where I'll be rewiring one of my littler paintings that I'm taking to the gallery tomorrow. I just forget that it's on there a lot of times, but yeah, like when I'm doing quick draw events or plein air events and stuff, yeah, I will definitely do that. And if I have blue tape on the edges, I'll put arrows all over it. This side up, dummy. But yeah, no, it's a lot smarter to do that because otherwise you have to put it face down. And if it's not dry, you know, to mount the wires and stuff. So good question. Good question. Thinking ahead. Anybody else got a question? All right. You guys are fantastic. This is the fastest 3 hours of my week, every week. And I really appreciate all your amazing hard work. So many paintings. And you guys are really pushing and trying new things. And I really appreciate that. I know it's not easy. Just know that, you know, when we're experimenting and we're playing, they don't always work out, but we're learning. And, you know, some of these things you'll take forward into your artistic life, and some of these things you'll never do again, but just play and try. Awesome, you guys.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Thank you. It was
you.
really good to see you all.
Thank you.
And I hopefully will have the videos up soon. All right, everybody,
Thanks.
take
So
care. Go
next
ahead.
week is the last class, or?
No, there's two more. Oh, good, good,
Hey,
good.
yay,
question.
yay, yay.
Good question. So yes, please be, I would like us to kind of be thinking about, it doesn't have to be, but yeah, phthalo green on my nose.
What a curse.
Inspired by Karen's children.
That's a good one. We'll call you snot nose.
Yeah, exactly. Start to think about your final project. Think about something you want to slow it down and think about, you know, I might have us doing little thumbnail sketches, little paintings, little color study, but something that you're going to be inspired by, and that if it works out, great. You can, you know, gift it or hang it on your wall or whatever else. All these little studies, you know, they'll probably just go into a drawer somewhere and never be looked at again. But it'd be nice to push ourselves a little bit beyond and try to get something a little more finished. So that will be our goal for the next 2 weeks, using whatever of the things that we've learned, and we'll go over in class next week, kind of what we did each week and what we've hopefully kind of put together knowledge wise. So, and if anybody got good notes today and it doesn't mind typing them up, or you could just speak into your phone and transcribe them that way, that would be fantastic. I'm sure all the other students would love to see it. And I personally would love to know what I just said.
You just have automatic art speak.
Automatic, yeah. I just turn off and yeah, art brain turns on. And
So, Michael, question.
Yeah.
You said that it's now, you can now sign up online at OSA, Oregon School of Art, for the color class in January, correct?
so I've heard, I have not seen the link.
Okay.
Yes.
so
I signed up.
Does your Zoom only allow a certain amount of students, or, you know, I'm on other
You
Zoom
wanna
meetings and
invite
they,
all your friends?
no, well, I was just wondering.
You can only invite your 39 best friends, I think.
But I sometimes on Zoom, you can't that many. I'm just wondering if I should do it right now and sign up is what I'm saying.
Oh, I think we can handle up to 40 students.
Okay.
I think you're fine. I don't know if quality starts to fall off, and because OSA is paying for it, I don't know, maybe you can even have more than that. I know when I bought my like very cheapest version way back in the day, I think it was up to like 20. And then, you know, that was during the beginning of COVID. And then it got up to 40, like they just said, you know, they just made an announcement. So that's the last I ever paid attention to it. But, you know, I always suggest you sign up before 39 other people jump on here and, you know.
Okay, I'll do it right now.
Yeah, there you
And
go.
so I had to take my dog and little Joey's sick, but I came back. I'll be back. And I came back and I want to know, I didn't hear, you have a big deal tomorrow. I want to wish you good luck.
Oh, thanks. No, yeah, I'm just dropping off work for another show, another small work show in Salem.
luck.
So
In Salem.
got one. Yeah, it's
Okay,
called
so that's
Salem on
not-
the Edge. I'm sorry?
Where is that? I couldn't go to Edmonton, but I'd love to see your work in Salem. That's not far.
Oh, sure. And I also have work in Newburgh at our Elements
Oh,
Gallery. I've
Okay,
got 5 little paintings and 1 6 or 7 foot painting that literally is just screaming your name. So you probably can't run and get
yeah.
that. It
I
is
have a
crisp.
question. What is the gallery in Salem called?
Salem on the Edge.
On the Edge, okay. Well, all right. Thanks for all that you do. Love taking the class with all these wonderful people and great artists. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you. Yeah, and I will find the link and put it onto our Facebook page just in case you don't find it. But I would love to have each and every one of you
Yeah.
back if you guys want to paint some color this winter with me.
Oh, God,
And I
yes.
have had a number of students, well, not a number. I've had 2 students. I guess that is a number. I've had 2 students in the past who so fell in love with the Tonalist class and didn't think of themselves as big colorists, and that stuck with me in the color class just to learn about using a full color spectrum, but continued to paint more on the tonalist side of things. So if that's something that's interesting to you, know that I can lean the some of the things that way as well for you. So there's a lot of range. Some people really want to, get crazy and paint really vibrant, extreme, colors, and other people definitely still like the muted, earthy colors. And you're going to learn how to subdue color, how to mix color, and how to make colors really come alive by who they sit next to and who they play with. So it's a lot of fun. I think kind of more of the impressionism. So I'm
I
looking
like
forward to
that.
it. I always have such a good time. I love all the classes I teach.
Yeah,
But-
superb classes you teach.
Thank you so much. I really
Oh,
appreciate
yeah, I know Michelle agrees with me.
all right.
Okay,
Go ahead.
good luck. Hope you make sales tomorrow.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I don't think they'll even get hung up tomorrow. It's just delivery.
Oh,
So,
okay.
but
Okay,
thanks. I
Be
appreciate it.
well. Be well, everyone.
Take
Thank
care.
you. Michael has something to show you.
Sure, I will hang out. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording unless you want to share it with the world.
That's all right.